Restoring old photographs. Hi, this is Jim from RV4x40.com. We're taking a bit of a detour today from our usual RV photographs because one of the things we've gotten very interested in because of the travels we've done is photography. And there's a subset of that which becomes very specific, and that is restoring old photographs. And this is a process I've worked on for some family pictures that people wanted to have restored, and so it is a service that we're starting to offer over on our photography website, so I'll put a link to that website down below. But I thought I'd just quickly run through the process we use so you get a feel for it. And this is not necessarily the easiest way to do something, but it is very effective to take a photograph which has been at least partially still intact. Sometimes they're too far gone to even restore anything without a super amount of work. But as long as the photograph is basically intact and has enough information in it that we can duplicate what is missing or repair what has been damaged, then it works quite well. So I'm just going to lead you through the process so you get a feel for it. And if you're interested in it, then I encourage you to go over to the photography website and you can get more information about the details for how the process works and how you could send us something to take a look at and see if we can restore it for you. So stay tuned. We're going to take a look at doing some photography work. This is the photograph we're going to start with. It is my wife's grandparents. They're the Andersons. As near as we can tell, this photograph was taken somewhere in the late 1800s, not exactly sure when. She never knew this pair of grandparents. They were her father's mother and father. So as you can see, it's damaged with some missing corners and a big tear in the middle of it. And what you can't see probably in this picture is that there's a lot of graininess to the picture. So we'll see if we can improve the quality as well as making it a usable print. The problem we're going to have with this photograph is while the missing upper right corner is fairly easy to replace, but the bottom right corner, there is not enough detail there, so it's going to be practically impossible to replace that. One could perhaps do it with enough work, but it's not going to be easy to do for sure. This is the basic setup that we used to photograph a picture, and the picture's not even visible to you yet, but it's a combination of things that work quite well. This particular camera, which is right there, is capable of doing a 160 megapixel picture of the picture, and so that's a very high resolution photograph. It's a fairly good camera, and it has what's called a macro lens on it for this particular operation, which gives us basically a flat field of view. So for a flat photograph, it's a very good way to take the picture. Gets rid of any curvature that might be in the lens. As you can see, we've got an open window, which is part of our lighting for natural lighting on it. And we've added 2 auxiliary lights because we really want the photograph to be well illuminated when we're taking it so that it gets good resolution and good color rendition of what's going on. As far as color rendition is concerned, this is something a lot of people are not aware of, but something you can do, and it's called white balance. And white balance refers really to compensating the camera, either the film or the digital mechanisms, so that they calibrate out whatever the color temperature is of the light that you happen to be using at the time. And sunlight, of course, is the natural reference, and it's considered to be quite hot. Temperatures for color like this are measured in degrees Kelvin. And so the gray card that's on there is an absolute perfect gray, which is a blend of all the colors, all the red, blue, and green that the camera can see. And so the first thing that we do with this is we take a basic photograph of that card, not to photograph the card, but it lets us set a custom white balance in the camera. So for this particular set of lights, the auxiliary lights are there plus the sunlight from the window, the camera now has a very accurate representation of what the colors should be. And that's all done in the camera. It can be done in post-processing in Lightroom or Photoshop, but we're doing it in the camera today, and that's already been set up. So the camera has been set up, and we've done the white balance picture, so the camera is set up. Those lights actually happen to be at around 5,600 degrees Kelvin when you look at it. The level is here because this is on a table, and this is a vacuum hold down frame, so it's used to pull down the picture flat, especially if there's any curl in it. This particular picture that we're taking a photograph of is relatively flat to start with, but a lot of photographs are going to have some curl to them depending on how they've been stored and what film they're on and that kind of thing. So we use this and we turn on some vacuum into that frame. That will pull down just using air pressure. We don't want to try and tape something down because that might interfere with the area we need to photograph, but we use a vacuum to pull anything down that's flat. We want to make sure that the camera is completely perpendicular so that there's no tilt to the left, to the right, the horizontal, or anything else. So we start off, we use the level to make sure that this arm is level, and we've also looked at the camera to make sure that the camera is level. So all of that should give us a nice square picture of what we're going to do. So at this point, it's really fairly simple. That's the setup. That's the hard part to do. And so now we're going to take probably a couple of shots just to make sure of that very high resolution picture, and then we're going to put that into some software we can start to examine the photograph and see how to correct it. So I'm not going to photograph that, it's just simply taking a picture, but the setup is what's important here, so you get a good, accurate, high resolution photograph of the photograph to start with. You've seen our handsome couple before. The first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of that bottom corner, actually the entire bottom part of the photograph, because there is no practical way to restore the missing detail in that section of the picture. Fortunately, it's not terribly important because it's just cutting off their feet. And so that's the first thing we've done, is what's called cropping, or simply remove the bottom portion of the picture, and that will leave us what we need to correct. We've loaded our picture into Photoshop, and we're doing basically a paint duplicate. That is taking information from part of the picture which should match what's in the corner. We don't know exactly what it would look like, but it's a background. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference. And we're gradually going to paint over the corner that's missing, which you can see the background plate from the vacuum pull down tool. But we'll keep doing this, and we'll just gradually fill this all in, and eventually we'll duplicate the border along the right hand side as well. So I'll speed this up a little bit. This is a little faster than real time, but you get the idea. So here you can see, still zoomed in a bit, but you can see we've completely filled in that missing corner. And to the casual eye, you can't tell that that's not part of the original photograph. So very happy with that. And we'll proceed on now to do a bunch of detail work. You can see on the man's jacket, for example, in this view, there's some spots on his jacket, some white spots. Not sure if that's in the photograph or it was dust that picked up some light when we were making the image. But we need to go through the photograph in great detail and pull all of those out. Here we're starting to heal some of the big fissures that were caused by a fold and a tear in the actual picture itself. The tools in Photoshop these days are amazing. Artificial intelligence. You can see, for example, how well it does in the fold in the lady's skirt. And it's a matter of painting over things and making sure that the program responds appropriately. Sometimes you have to paint a different direction or other little details to try to get it to look as natural as you can. Of course, these are fairly zoomed in pictures you're looking at here. You're not going to see this in detail and looking at the actual image. Once it's made into the actual size, you're going to look at it. But we're going to go through this and keep doing these until we get to the point where we've got pretty much the big tear across the picture healed. And then if you see those little dots, we'll have to go back one by one, and there were a lot of little dots in this particular photograph that had to be touched up one by one. A lot of them, frankly, you would not have seen in a normal size print of this, but while we had it out, while we were in there, we decided we'd go ahead and do that. So altogether, it probably took us maybe 2.5 hours to actually go through this photograph and make it where it's the way we want it to be, which is as close to an original as we're going to get. So I'm sure you're anxious to see what it looks like. So we're going to set this finish out at a higher speed, and then we're going to show you the final result after all the work has been done and we're happy with the picture. And here we just bring it up kind of gradually, And so now we have, I think, a beautiful reproduction of an antique picture of people that are long gone. In fact, my wife never knew her grandparents on her father's side. But a handsome couple. I am told she was quite short and he was quite tall. One of the reasons he was sitting, although that was quite common in those days for photographs. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick look at the processing of a damaged photograph into one which is a reasonable representation and is certainly usable. If you're interested in this, contact us at the link down below and we can discuss what you have and what we might be able to do to help you out. In the meantime, you have a great day and enjoy traveling the highways and byways of America. If we run into you, be sure to say hi. If you're interested in something like this, as I said before, contact us at the J. Russell TX Photo, whatever it is.